Hi friends, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we're taking a look at the QSP Snipe, model QS121, and it comes in 3 colors. The only one that's got black on the flats is this OD green, but you also get, well now I forget what the other 2 colors are. I'll tell you in a minute. I looked up the word snipe, because I thought I knew what the definition of this word snipe is. Yeah, and I'm right. To shoot at from a hiding place, to take pot shots at somebody. It's actually not a bad name for this knife. A snipe is also a type of bird. It's a water bird. Not waterfowl, but a bird that likes to live in water, got longer legs. Or to make a snide remark, to snipe at someone. Pretty good name for this knife. We've got D2 steel. We've got G10 handle scales. We've got both open pillar and back spacer. Kind of cool. 2-way pocket clip. Full-size folder. Liner lock. I think you're going to be interested in this guy. I think this might be the perfect budget knife for, well, I'll tell you for who in just a minute. Keep watching. Get yourself comfortable. And we're going to do the full review coming to you right now. So there you go. That's a pretty good look at the knife. Let's do a little size comparison by looking at the Ontario Rat 1. Very, very similar in size, length, handle length. It's a good size knife. It's actually very similar in weight as well. A little over 5 ounces for this guy, and it's perfect for what it is. Now, who is this knife for? I think this knife is perfect for the guy who needs a knife to snipe with, snipe with a knife, and EDC. It's a very good cross between those 2 roles. Let's talk about the blade first. We've got a fairly thick blade, a little over 1/8 of an inch thick. We'll do the specs a little bit later on, the specific specs. The tip of the blade has got like a spear point kind of shape. The same kind of radius here as it is on the belly of the blade. It's got a false edge there. I wouldn't sharpen that edge because, when you put it in your pocket, you're going to cut your pocket and stuff. But, if you really wanted this knife to be very good at penetrating, and it is, but even better at penetrating, you could bring that swedge down a little bit more so the false edge would be quite thin for the first inch or so up here. Be a cool little mod, I would think. But we've got a thick blade, very sturdy tip for that because of the way it's made with that swedge up there and everything. And it's got a saber grind, so it's a flat grind that comes up partway up the blade, a little over half the way up. Very well polished grind. Pretty good on this side as well. Sharpener's choil is the perfect size. There's the QSP logo. And on this side, it just says D2. I like the understated writing on the knife. That's all that there is, and that's very good. We've got some coarse jimping up here. So it's not aggressive, but it is enough to give just a little bit extra thumb grip up here. The flipper tab has got a little bit of jimping on it as well right there. You can push pretty much straight down, but just at a tiny bit of an angle, and the blade comes flying out. And of course, you can pull straight back for the light switch method, and the blade just deploys very well. And that's because the detent is awesome. And it holds it well enough that, it doesn't open easily inadvertently. So that's a good thing. So that's the basics of the blade. I did mention the sharpener's choil. It's nice enough so that it's easy to sharpen this knife right to the edge without getting into the plunge. I do put masking tape over the flats before I clamp them in my sharpening system so I don't scratch up this black coating. There's nothing on the QSP website that says exactly what type of coating that is. It hasn't gotten marred on me yet, and I haven't intentionally tried to mar it either, but I think it's fairly durable. I've had some other knives of QSP that have this coating, and it's a fairly durable coating. So we've got a stop pin back here, just a straight one that goes across. We've got a body pillar here, pin. Very nice. And then the back spacer is, I believe it's aluminum. It's a metal to be sure. And the back spacer comes back to the lanyard hole back here. So it's got a nice inset lanyard hole. I prefer that. And it comes to a point. So this knife is also quite good as a persuader. You know, if you push it into some flesh, you know, that's going to, you know, especially on a collarbone or, you know, the back of the neck or something, that's going to cause somebody to want to follow your instructions, I would think. Or, you know, for crushing small things as well, if you needed to. There's 2 screws that hold this together, and then that body screw there and the main pivot pin. I mentioned all 4 of these screws because that makes this handle very strong. Knives that have just 2 are quite strong already, but when you add these extras in here, it helps make the knife that much stronger and more dependable. Screws on knives sometimes come loose. It's not super common or anything, but the more screws you have, you know, the less risk you have of it coming, you know, apart when you don't want it to. They are inset. They're round head screws that are inset. Not bad. You've got a cap for the pocket clip that's on the left side. So if you switch it over, that's a nice touch. You know, it's a couple cents extra in manufacturing, but it's a really nice touch that they put on this knife. Deep carry pocket clip. And there's enough space between the edge of the pocket clip and the heads of those screws that has no problem sliding all the way to the bottom. Slightly raised lip here, not a problem at all. I do like ones that come up and then they flatten out a little bit on the top, but this pocket clip has given no hot spots in my hand, and it's worked every single time I've tried to use it. So let's demonstrate it in a pocket. So here we go. We slide it in the pocket. It rides over immediately and goes right to the bottom every single time. So that's a good thing. You just have a little bit of that OD green showing out and a little bit of that black. So it's quite discreet. The texture that's on the G10 here is a little more aggressive than a lot of textures are on G10 knives, but not so aggressive that it's a problem at all. Actually, I prefer it this way. And then on these chamfered edges here, you can see the milling that's done there with the lines going across. So this knife is very grippy in hand. When you've got it in hand, you can be sure it's not going to slide around. You don't have to squeeze hard to get a good grip. It just keeps in your hand very well. You've got this dip here for your thumb to sit in if you want to hold your thumb here instead of up there. So that's very comfortable. You know, rounded back to fit in the palm of your hand. Reverse grip is very comfortable as well. If you put your thumb over the end, you know, that can be a little uncomfortable, but it's a very good solid grip. You've got the guard that is made from the flipper tab coming out there. Feels excellent in hand, actually. You've got this little extra jimping on the liner lock release, and it sticks out far enough that you always can be sure that you're going to get that release every time you want it. And, you know, it just is a well-made release. Very comfortable in hand, and the release works every single time. The pivot pins that I was talking about, you know, they've got a little bit of a decorative kind of look to them. But there's the T8 screw on each side. I'll take it apart to show you the insides of it. You can see that it's got these bronze caged ceramic ball bearings, tiny ones. Very nice. Lots of skeletonizing right here to help keep that weight down a little bit. It's just a well-built knife. There's those 3 screws and the pivot pin. Nothing strange or negative here. The detent ball is also ceramic. And another pin back here to help hold everything in place all the time, not just relying on those 2. You know, cheap manufacturing could have said, oh, those 2 screws there, that's enough to hold this backspacer in place. But no, they put this pin in here as well. They chamfered the edges of the liners here. Look at this. Where the screw comes in. Just those little touches right there. It pays dividends in the end if you've got a very well-built knife. And yes, it's got the locked pivot pin, the D-shaped pivot pins, so it's not free spinning. So there is a bit of a screw head here. So if you put the screw in there and it just moves a tiny bit and then comes to a stop, don't force it. You're going to chew up the head of the screw badly. Go to the other side and do it on the other way. So there you go. That's, with the skeletonized and everything, this is a very good weighted knife with extreme durability, I believe, and strength. D2 steel is an excellent choice for this. D2 generally is around 58, 59, 60 in the Rockwell hardness scale, somewhere around there. But if you want something that's good for EDC plus, then this is a very good choice for that kind of knife. With belly all the way along, the saber grind gives you a thick, strong, durable blade. And, if it wasn't comfortable in hand, I would tell you this thing is very comfortable, at least for people with hands my size, and probably for people with slightly smaller hands. My hands are large, bordering on extra large, and it's a beautiful, beautiful knife. Let me tell you about all the dimensions now. Weight of this knife is 151 grams, 5.35 ounces. Not bad at all. The sharpness from the factory, 120 bes, which is excellent. Very good sharpness from the factory. And of course, it's D2 steel, so it's going to sharpen well at home as well. There's some kind of myths going around on the internet saying that D2 is really hard to sharpen. No, it's not that hard to sharpen. You just need to get the right stones. If you buy the very cheapest stones you can find, yeah, it's going to be hard to sharpen because the cheapest stones are made for the cheapest steel. And the cheapest steel is like a Rockwell 55. The cutting edge length, 9.04 centimeters, 3.56 inches. Just a tiny bit more for the blade length to the end of the handle, 9.1 centimeters, 3.58 inches. So it's a great length. 3.5 inches is a great blade length. The blade thickness is almost 3.5 millimeters, 0.137 of an inch, so just over 1/8 of an inch thick. The blade depth this way is 2.74 centimeters, 1.08 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind right here is 0.69 millimeters, which is 0.027 inches. Just a slight bit thicker than I prefer, but that little extra thickness makes this knife that much more strong. It's a very strong knife indeed. And with the grind angle of 19 on one side and 20.9 on the other side, they didn't do a bad job sharpening this knife either. Like I said, it was sharp and they did a good angle on it. And so it's not going to take much to get this thing the perfect, I would do this knife probably at about 18 degrees per side if I was carrying it. Anything between 18 and 20 is going to be a good angle for a knife like this per side. The handle length, 12.1 centimeters, 4.75 inches. So it's a good ratio between the handle and blade lengths. The grip area in here is about 9.5 centimeters, about 3 3/4 inches. The handle thickness is about 1.5 centimeters, 0.595 of an inch. So it's a great thickness. Like I said, very good hand feel because of the way the handle's designed. The handle depth, that's this measurement right here, 2.75 centimeters, just over an inch and an eighth. No, an inch, 0.08 is what I mean. And when the knife is closed, that's right around 4 centimeters, which is 1.59 inches. And the total length of the knife when it's open from very end of the handle to the tip of the blade, 21.2 centimeters, 8.326 of an inch. So it's a very good carrying size. With the strength of both the blade and the strength of this handle, thick liners, highly skeletonized to keep the weight down. This is a very strong, durable knife. I think QSP hit it out of the park with the Snipe. It's underrated. Not enough people are reviewing this knife. this is a very good choice. It comes in, I think, 3 different colors. You get it in the black handle with a full satin blade, or you can get that, that bluish kind of handle. And that's also a satin blade, as you saw. So these, how much do they cost? They cost $48.95 at White Mountain Knives. But take yourself, almost $5 off, which is 10% with my coupon code CCE off anything that you buy at White Mountain Knives, including their clearance items. Justin over at White Mountain Knives does some deals, 2-for-1 deals. He'll put 2 knives together and give you a really good deal. Check out his clearance and deal sections. There's some good stuff going on there. And you still get 10% off when you use my coupon code. So that works itself to very close to $44 for this knife. That is excellent. So what do I think about this knife? It's got the look. I like almost every knife, but this knife really has a look to it that says this is a strong, durable, working knife. And it can do more than just work. At least I think it's got that look. And it's got that, like I said, everything about the handle, that extra milling that's on the chamfers, the extra little bit of texture on the G10, the extra functional end back here and the inset lanyard hole so that when you put cordage on here, it doesn't bulk up on the outside. The deep pocket clip that's right and left friendly. The liner release that's easy to get at every single time. The flipper that flips very well because the flipper tab is just made very well. Great detent. The bearings in here, this is an excellent, excellent knife. To summarize, well built, well designed. It's got the look. Functionality is right up there. Usefulness, the different roles that it can play, right up there. The weight, it's not a bad weight. And, it's strong. What are the cons? If I was making this knife myself, I would have brought the grind up another, at least 1/4 of an inch. So this black would start right about where my fingernail is now. And then I'd have the edge be just a little bit thinner. That's the only thing I would change on this knife. For this price, under $50, well, actually $44, this is a winner. QSP knows what they're doing. If you want to check out my other QSP videos, I've got a link down below for a playlist for all my QSP knives that I've reviewed. And let me know in the comments below if there's other QSP knives you want to see on this channel. The higher end stuff, might be a little bit less likely to get on this channel. I am predominantly a budget channel. And, 90% of what I review is under $50. And at least for 2019, we'll see what I do for 2020. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. If there's something you want to know about this knife that I didn't tell you guys, ask me in the comment section below. I read them all. Those of you who aren't aware, I am quite ill, and so I don't respond to all the comments. I respond to just a few, but I do read them all. So, or email me at canadiancuttingedge@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. If you've got any other questions, concerns, if you want to buy a knife that I reviewed in the previous months, shoot me an email, and I'm willing to sell most of my knives. And I buy all my knives. I don't necessarily pay full retail. Well, no, I don't buy all my knives. There's some knives I get given to me by manufacturers, but I make every effort to do honest, open reviews with no prejudice for or against anybody. And I only accept free items from companies that tell me I can say anything I want. And most of them actually ask me to give honest reviews. And if they don't, I don't review their stuff. I'm not bought by anybody. This channel doesn't make me money. I don't get rich doing this. I earn $50 a month in advertising money, and that helps me buy another knife. And, so that's how it goes. I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this because I love knives and I love sharing them with you guys. And it helps me pass my time. So thanks again. Remember, guys, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.